Welcome back to the channel, you guys. This is your girl, Wicked Raider 22, coming to you to actually follow up on one request that I've gotten repeatedly. I can definitely say many of you guys at this point have unlocked Ronda as a login champion, and hopefully, especially by the number of reviews. There's so many champions in the game that have not made it to 4,000 reviews. But this is one of those login champions that has definitely hopped in and made a true difference. I saved her actually on this particular free-to-play account, just so you guys can kind of see me go through gear, talk about it from a early game kind of standpoint, and of course, get your feedback, your feelings on how you guys are currently using her in the game and what do you think of her overall. If this is for most of us, this may be your second or third legendary champion, depending on how long you've been involved with Raid Shadow Legends. Welcome to the conversation, because you're about to figure out exactly how hard legendary books are to come by. So we're going to start where we always start, taking a look at skills first, going through the reviews, and I'll be really quick on the skills side because this is a champion that so many videos have actually popped up about. It's always nice to see all these areas filled under the skill area. But coming in with the first attack, we're going to attack one enemy 3 times with Flaming Fury. Places an extra hit if the target has less than 50% HP after the third hit. And I will tell you guys now, even though you can book this up to increase damage by 20%, Ronda can definitely get it done without being booked as well. So if booking this champion out is not an option for you right away, don't push yourself. Definitely, I would take the time to add in some masteries and to upgrade the gear that I'm placing on her, and I would run her there instead. With the second skill for phase rushdown, attacks one enemy 3 times, will ignore shield buffs and 30% of the target's defense. For all of my players, all of my early game players, especially in Arena, who have been avoiding those teams with Ultimate Death Knight, you're able to get through all of the other champions in that team setup, but you make it to Ultimate Death Knight, and for some reason, you cannot overcome his skill set. Ronda is 100% going to be the answer to that. And it's for a very clear reason. Number 1, blocks passive skills. This one is a huge one. I love that she is able to ignore shield buffs. Love that. I love that she can ignore 30% of a target's defense. That is especially helpful. But even better, when she is able to place a block passive skills debuff for 2 turns before attacking, and to block an active skill debuff for 2 turns after attacking, it's the combination of these two that allow her to overcome the good old Ultimate Death Knight combo. So there are so many teams that will include a healer, for example. I've seen a lot of early game Arena teams that will always come in with your Ultimate Death Knight. Some of them have a Burgess as well. So he is also absorbing much of the damage that's being dealt. So it becomes really, really difficult to figure out which teams you want to challenge and which teams you wish to skip. The good thing is, if you take a look, damage can be increased by 20%, but guys, even better, cooldown. Get this down to a 3-turn cooldown. It is taking place all the time. On the 4th attack, Fury Trimmer. If you have the privilege of putting this champion in some pretty decent gear, especially as you're running through faction crypts, for example, just had a chance to use her there, you're going to be impressed with Fury Trimmer. Attacks all enemies 2 times. Oh, I love it. The skill can be placed on a 4-turn cooldown. Damage increases by 30% if this champion has more than 50% HP. Placing Ronda on a team where you have a healer is going to be to your benefits. Honestly, as you are going through and building this champion, if she's not currently the strongest champion on your team setup or within your champion vault, you can also use her in a way that allows you to truly progress, because that's what you're looking for, is going to be the progression overall. She is still immune to turn meter reduction. So if you're going against a Diabolus, for example, you're coming against those CC champions that have a way of holding your skill level in one spot, she's going to ignore all of that and decreases all turn meter reduction effects used against this champion by 50% if the skill is not currently on cooldown. She is not hard to book. We're looking at a pretty minimal number of books. So 4 on the first skill, 3 on the second skill, we're up to 7. So for 10 books, she is done. And guys, 10 is pretty average for there's some legendaries. You are 13, 15, 16 books in. So it can definitely look a little bit different. Now, once we ascend this champion, in your corner has a 15% chance to join an attack whenever an ally attacks an enemy. This champion will attack with their default skill. So she's going to come back around with that first skill, which is even better. At the start of each round, places a shield buff on this champion for 2 turns equal to 40% of their max HP. Ronda can give you flexibility. This champion is all about progression. If you've been ignoring Arena, this is going to be your moment. If you've been ignoring certain areas of Faction Crypt, this is your moment. I've even had a chance to run her in a couple of keeps and dungeons, and she's been extremely, extremely helpful. Aura is going to hit us with ally attack in all battles. She will increase that by 30%. And let's see, you guys can see the community is feeling this champion overall. She's highly regarded in every area of the game. I'm not currently running her at high levels in Ice Golem, for example. I think even on my most advanced account, I'm up to level 16, 17 in that area, but I've definitely been using her and working her through Clan Boss, through Hydra, just trying to get a feel for where this champion can shine the most. Now, this is where the separation begins. If your account is like mine, especially for all of my free-to-play subscribers, one of the areas where we will always, always struggle is going to be in the areas of artifacts. If you are lucky enough to have either farmed some great gear, if you've been lucky enough to forge some great gear, she will definitely benefit from that as well. What I'm looking for with Ronda, honestly, is going to be speed. I definitely want to have speed, and I definitely want to see an increase in crit rates. The amount of crit damage will normally come. It's not too difficult to get a champion to 90 or 100% or more. So that's going to be one of those areas. And the other thing is, as I'm going through, especially for this account in particular, I'm always looking at what I already have available. I would love to have speed on my boots, but as you guys can see, that's probably going to be the one area on my attack boots, got a little something there. That's going to be a little bit more difficult. This account, because I have been going through and actually outfitting quite a few champions, you guys can see we are pretty limited on gear as well. I have run Ronda in lifesteal gear. I've placed her in divine offense. I have her one set up with perception gear. I think it all depends. I like her in perception. I like her in bolster as well. If you manage to crap out a full set. I like the fact of finding a combination that has attack and speed. Even better if I can find attack, speed, and crit rates. Those two would definitely brighten my little heart as well. So I don't have a lot of gear that's already upgraded on this one. I'm just going to go with some of my more solid pieces here. And then we're going to run her just to kind of give you an overall look and really just feel for who on the team would I actually like to surround her with, because that's another big one as well. And for Ronda, I would like to see a little bit of speed on each artifact that I'm able to get on her. So that would be nice as well. Now, since this is a login champion, And of course, you're going to run into a couple of team setups that may prove to be a little bit more difficult than others. I want you guys to also keep in mind the overall focus. Where do you want to take your account? We're rounding out the year. There is bound to be something else from Plarium coming our way. I wouldn't be shocked after the new dungeon is open. We've run through a series of events and tournaments back to back. It's been so much content, but the question is, where do I want to kind of calm myself and really start to focus? I've been dying to put this on a champion, and she's probably going to be the one to get it. And because helmets are kind of hard to come by, it's not going to be my favorite helmet. I'm likely going to run this champion in a broken set. There are a lot of moments when I have to really tell myself that at this point, it's going to be a lot more important to go for the stats rather than to fully flesh out and to take care of an actual sets. I used to always run sets. I only ran complete sets. And if it wasn't a complete set, I would not put it on a champion. I quickly learned that at the end of the day, stats going to be way more important than if I have a complete set on a champion. Looking at what the gear is able to do for a champion and how it meets my other expectations was likely going to be the most important thing. Now, I'm going to tell you guys now, if you are running Ronda through Arena, for example, most of us shouldn't have an issue as far as gearing her out good enough, because the average person has a team that they've been working with in Arena as you have started to go through the levels. The question is now going to become, and especially true when we bring ourselves back to this Arena field, it comes down to emotion where you start asking yourself the question, is my team fast enough? Because the speed game is going to switch up. It's absolutely going to switch up. And there are a couple of reasons. I'm going to do a video on the newest dungeon, because being able to pull those oils, even early game, I know a lot of in-game players are up in arms over the past couple of days because they have been farming and working extremely hard to build some really, really key gear. And now, guess what? Their teams are getting beaten. So it's you did all you could do. You thought you were doing pretty well, and then bam, you got hit with it. Now, I want to run Ronda first. I know I have been neglecting this classic Arena. We are coming with a little Death Knight here. So we're going to start out pretty simple, extra basic, of course. And I wonder if they have two. Should we go for two? But I'm going to slide her in, kind of see what kind of damage my girl will do. For this particular account, the one thing I will say, I have pulled some very solid champions. And as you can see, one thing that's going to get us right away is going to be her level. But notice, depending on who she's with, if they're able to throw a shield her way or to provide that extra support, that's going to be helpful as well. My goal is for her to block his passive. So before she's taken out, if she's taken out, being able to block that passive is going to be nice. Just had a chance to see her go in with an extra ally attack, which is going to be helpful. Block passive just hits. And this is going to allow us to bring Ultimate Death Knight to his, almost to his knees. And I will tell you, I was one of those, depending on where I was as far as Arena was going, guys, I would avoid any Ultimate Death Knight that was above level 50. Level 50 and below, I could kind of take care of them depending on who I had on my team. But it was coming to a point where those teams were so difficult to get around, because even if I took out these other three champs across the board, it was hard to get through the passive and, of course, that second and third attack coming off of Ultimate Death Knight. I have Ultimate Death Knight on my Arena team. Absolutely love having him. There are some situations where he isn't going to be the best champion to fit the scenario or the situation, which is understandable. But now that you have a counter for Ultimate Death Knight, it's absolutely going to change the game. And as you can see, it's not hard to get him down. Deliana should be not too difficult for us, even though you are going to start running into Delianas that have been placed in unkillable gear, for example. Some of them have a setup where kind of like very similar to Lifesteal. They're in gear where all the damage they're given, they're getting a percentage of that in return as well. Let's kind of look at her numbers. So number wise, not putting up huge numbers. Remember, we just put artifacts on her, but keeping up very much so in arena, especially when you have some teams that are going to be very, very heavy on one champion compared to the others. So she can certainly come in and make that bit of difference. Now, somewhere else. Let's run her with Clan Boss because I haven't done my Clan Boss. If you guys have not been logging in and working on Clan Boss, I certainly recommend it. We've made it to hard level, and I guess I will dump these little keys in here. But should I go to easy, y'all? Should I do it? Start at easy. I know. We're gonna slap her on what's a pretty good team. I normally get some good damage, and we'll do a little comparison. I saw a video, I think done by Ash, that was comparing the damage of Ronda compared to the damage of Kale. And they're going to be pretty comparative. If you have, for example, let's say you selected Kale as your starter champion, you have already 6-starred him, you fully mastered him. Kale is going to be putting out very, very similar damage. Where I've seen the difference is it all depends on which skill set you need. There are a lot of situations where having a poison master champion is going to be vital. But there are also some other areas where I need a champion that's coming in and definitely dealing more damage and also blocking many of those passives. Now, for a boss like this one, many of her skills are not as helpful because, of course, in Clan Boss, depending on what you have going on, these passives will keep it rolling when they can. If you're looking to increase your numbers for Clan Boss, remember, this is when being able to either support your champions, revive your champions, or have an increase in speed, or a champion that is applying shields for protection will all allow you to kind of survive a little bit longer. Guys, Clan Boss in the beginning it can feel so hard. And I remember just getting to 3, 4, 500,000 points just felt impossible. But I kept watching videos and I was seeing all of these veterans and they are hitting the millions. So I knew it was possible. Now I have champions that are hitting 1, 2, 3 million on their own. So it's one of those. But just kind of seeing her do her work, getting in the numbers, total damage is increasing. Even on easy mode, if you're trying to get a feel for a champion, what they can do, run them through campaign if you have not. Take them into Ice Golem, for example. Take them into Minotaur's Labyrinth. This is a champion you're definitely going to be putting masteries on. So acquiring those scrolls over time is going to be extremely helpful for you as well. With you looking at gear, and there are so many sets I think you could put her in just simply depending on the situation. But again, my focus, attack percentage is always the top one. Speed is another one because her being able to get those attacks in, there's not a huge need for accuracy. You're not looking for a lot of times our gear will have crit damage that's involved as well. So remember, that's one of those stats you don't have to just keep your eyes glued to. Crit rate is always going to be a nice one. But this team is going to easily hit 1 million. All these guys are doing really well. She is down. And I think Miss Creative Monster gives support, reviving not, and maybe, there he goes, reanimate. I figured he was going to come, pick her up, and allow her to get in a little bit more damage as well. Clan Boss is going to have those moments where he absolutely smacks. So don't be shocked if you see a champion go down, especially when they shouldn't. It's always the champions that catch you off guard. But we're going to finish out this particular clan boss run. Guys, let me know. How are you using Ronda? What gear do you currently have her in? What do you think? Is this one of those login champions that actually turned out to be a game changer? Have you been able to progress with your account? I know a lot of us the last week or so have really been pushing. So 1.3 damage, looking at Ronda kind of holding her own. Outdid Miscreated Monster, I think actually with a couple of gear changes. Outdid Ultimate Death Knight. Not bad with a little support there and some defense. So all around, this champion in particular is not one to be slept on. I highly recommend, if you haven't taken the time to get in and use this champion, certainly do so. And guys, of course, if you're looking for a clan, we have slots available. Would love to have you join in on the fun. 22WK. Type it in, come join us. And of course, happy gaming.